Hello, and welcome to another edition of Truth Bombs and Heart Nudges. We have Ms. Taylor Johnson here again with us. Welcome,
Hello.
Taylor. We're having so much fun. We're just going to keep on going.
Right.
So today, I guess, I'm not sure. Well, I guess it could be however you look at it. For you, maybe today is going to be a truth bomb, and maybe today is going to be a heart nudge. I'm not sure. God is totally scripting this episode. It's the best way I can describe it. So today is all about becoming the one God called. You may be thinking that you don't have a purpose or that you're lost or you don't matter or maybe you're broken or you're not deserving or you're unworthy. But the truth is that you are worthy. You are born worthy. You matter. You are deserving of a beautiful, amazing life because it's interwoven in you through your purpose because your purpose is interwoven in you. Your purpose is because you are here on this planet, and because you're on this planet, you have this purpose. It's a very interesting little twist of how that works because everything has a flow, and your purpose is a flow of who you are. So if you're out there thinking that you are not important, you are very important. Every single person alive is important. You are a piece of the cosmic puzzle. Everything you do ripples out across the whole and back to you. So today is all about becoming the one God called. And so you might be thinking, but I don't know. I don't know who I am or who God is calling me to be. And so we're going to touch on that a little bit. The interesting thing about this subject is, man, how long ago was that now? In my journaling with God, I've been journaling with God for a really long time, like 13, 14 years. Not sure now. It's been so long. But in my journaling, he basically just said, Lori, you are going to create a program because it is called Becoming the One God Called. And it's going to be 12 weeks long. And the first section is about journaling, learning to hear my voice and have discern me and hear me and talk with me. And the second piece is all about understanding his love for you so that you can love yourself the way that he loves. And the third piece of it was basically divine purpose, like what your purpose is. And so today is going to be all about becoming the one God called. And the reason that Taylor is the perfect guest to be here for this discussion is because when God spoke to me that, we're going to create this program, I told Taylor about it. And so I'll let Taylor share like what her thoughts were when I had said, hey, God's telling me I'm going to do this.
Yeah. So when you first brought up this program to me, I mean, I just had a vision really of just something enormous. Like when you were breaking it all down and what's so funny about it is you were so like kind of like like it sounded like something that just kind of like came in your head. Like it was like so, but yet it was so organized. And it's like, yeah, like God just like gave it all to me. And it was like kind of just like a casual thing. And I'm like, that's like a big deal. Like this is like big. Like this sounds like something that someone would take like years to plan, which God was taking years to plan because you have several years of history of journaling with God, right? But yeah, so that's what's so cool about like a journey with God is like you don't know how long he's been preparing you for this moment. Like it's all been behind the scenes. So in that moment, I was just like, wow, like I really am interested to see what this is all about, because I hadn't really seen any of your other programs. I hadn't even read your book yet, your books. I hadn't we had just kind of rekindled again. So all I knew was what you just kind of told me. And I was intrigued. I'm like, that's awesome. And then sure enough, it was just like happened really quickly.
Right. And that's the thing I want to also bring out the fact that you said, that should take like a long time to do. So back to that whole purpose piece, you are in your purpose all of the time. Some people will ask me like, how'd you go from teaching to being a coach or, and I've had manufacturing in my background. So they'll even be like, how'd you go from manufacturing to teaching or from teaching to manufacturing? Like, how does this all work? Well, that's the most amazing thing about God. Like we feel like we're going off path because sometimes he'll take us around a corner and we're like, I don't know how this relates to what I'm being called to do, but never underestimate what God can do with things that feel completely like in your head going, I don't get it. Because the greatest thing about having education as my background is the ability to whip out lessons, because that's, you know, what we're taught to do is create lessons. And so that piece was there. And the fact that I've been journaling with him so long and able to allow him to speak through me, so that was already plugged in. So it was basically, I mean, it flew out of me, literally. I can remember just sitting down and writing like 4 lessons in one night. And like, I don't even know where it came from. Um, so that is in all of you. Like, I am not special in that ability to allow God to speak through me. We're all special. We all have that ability. So if you're thinking, yeah, well, that's you. And I've also had other people actually talk when I encourage other people or clients to say, you know, you can hear God speak to you. That is, he speaks to everyone. And then someone will turn around and tell them, no, that's just a gift that Lori has. Well, no, that is a gift we all have, because if you have 10 kids, you're not only going to talk to 2, you're going to talk to all of them. And he's the same. He wants to speak with every one of you, and you have the ability to hear him. It is already within you because he lives in you. How can you not hear what's already in you unless you're not listening? So don't discount what you think are wrong turns. There's no wrong turns, because God uses every turn, everything to teach you a lesson, or to lift you higher, or to even express the ability of what you can do when you allow him to work through you. Because like Taylor said, like creating this 12-week program, and by say 12 weeks, I'm talking a daily lesson for 84 days. That's 84 lessons written, turned into PowerPoints, turned into videos. I mean, it's so intense when I sit here and think about all that was involved in doing it. And it happened in such a short amount of time. So that ability is in you. You're meant to create. It could be lessons, it could be paintings, it could be, you know, some kind of athletic type of purpose. Everything is beautiful. And God uses us in such amazing ways when we open up ourselves to do that. And so this program, and even though like I knew the topic areas of each course that's in this program, I wasn't entirely sure how it was going to play out, especially the purpose piece. But it's amazing how it just flowed. Like I didn't stop and think about what I was doing. I just allowed it to flow. And the lessons literally just are like boom, 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 boom. But the progression is insane how it all played out. And Taylor's here, like she can, you know, kind of share some of her experience, because she's actually been through the program as I was creating it. So yeah.
So I will, go ahead and share that. It really did help, even just in my personal life, of like setting the tone for my quiet time in the morning. Just waking up and turning on like that day's lesson. So the whole idea behind it is to do it day by day, so that you get to rest with that journaling piece, with those questions, with that moment each day. And it's not like, you know, you like do like 10 of them and just to like kind of catch up, unless you have the time to like rest with each one, obviously. But so that was super powerful for me in helping frame my days to it helps me remind myself that time's not my master, right? And I have time to rest with God in this journaling prompt, in this moment with him. And really journaling, it changed my perspective and complete understanding on journaling. I've journaled for a while now. Personally, I have several journals myself, and I've journaled to God for several years. I have had God journal back to me before. It's always been an outgoing message. It's never been an incoming message. So that is what's so incredible about this program, because so many people, like Lori said, like we all have the ability. Like if you are a child of God, you know, you've accepted Jesus as your Lord and Savior, like you are a child of his, you are his. And so we have the ability to hear from him because you are his. So we just don't get quiet enough and ask the questions, to sit and rest with hearing him. And it was a huge piece to even first identify his voice. Like, to me, that was like outstanding, like, because especially in the beginning of the program, when, you know, we had to learn to identify his voice to obviously hear him through the rest of the program. So that was super powerful to know his voice. And then obviously it aided me in writing my book because he's the one that wrote the book, right? So hearing his voice just helped me in all areas of my life. And I'll never forget, I just want to share one experience on this topic where the first time I did hear his voice, like clear as day, like I knew for a fact it was him. Because, you know, maybe you have heard his voice, maybe you haven't, maybe you've only ever felt him in some sense of like, I just feel like that's not the right choice, or I just feel, you know what I mean? That's kind of like a Holy Spirit discernment moment. And that's what I had been kind of living on, like based off, like I just would know something by feeling. I wouldn't necessarily recognize God's voice speak to me direct. So when I first heard it, I was sitting in my bed, it was like 6 a.m. and I started the journaling prompt, and it was just a beautiful lesson. And then we get to the prompt and it says, God, like there were 2 questions. God, why do you want me to journal? And I got quiet and I like turned my brain off. And I'm like, I'm going to hear his voice. Like, and I just heard him say like, to draw near, to draw near. We journal to draw near. You know, obviously get our thoughts out and all that stuff too, but we are connecting with him when we spend this time with him, and we're putting it on paper, and we're having this conversation. So then I asked God, what do you see when you look at me? And this one had me like bust into tears. This is the moment I will like never forget in this program, like ever. And I just felt like the gentle like voice, his gentle yet clear, concise voice. Like, it's not like a yell, and it's not like a super tiny little squeaky whisper, but it's gentle and it's clear. And he said faithful. And I like lost it. I'm like bawling my eyes out because he knew me in that moment, in that season of my life. Carrying, but I've held on to him. I've held on to him, you know, through all these super intense, difficult, challenging seasons in my life. And so to hear him physically say that to me was just such a beautiful moment that I will never forget it. And that was the moment that I was just like, this is like the best decision I ever made to be a part of this program, really.
Yeah. And I love that it didn't even take you the first week. Like, it was in the first weekend to the program that she was already hearing God speaking to her. And so, you know, as the person that was asked to create this with him, I was in awe myself that it was that quick for him. And I really believe that, and I know that there is an energy exchange to when you ask a question, if you're really expecting an answer, or if you knock on the door, you're expecting someone to answer. That knowing that you can sit down with him and ask a question and have him actually answer you back, it's just life changing. Because if I look way back, because it was a long time ago, the first time that I asked God to tell me what it was he wanted me to know, and then he started talking to me. It is the most amazing God high to be on. Because and I did it in the evening. It was like right before bed, and so I couldn't sleep that night because I was just so in awe of, you know, hearing what he had to say. And there is power, like when he does tell you, like there is many times he spoke to me and I am in tears because he knows our heart so completely that he'll tell us things about ourselves that we maybe have dismissed because, you know, we don't feel worthy to be what he created us to be. And so that connection with him changes everything, because he'll tell you exactly who you are and what you're meant to be doing, because he made you exactly how you are and to be doing what you're meant to be doing. So yeah, I was so excited when she came back. She's like, oh my gosh, he was talking to me. And it's so amazing. And on that note too, I want to add it, because that realization after that, I realized like it didn't even take the whole first week. And so that's where in my head, I'm like, okay, this is what people need. And so that's when I started offering it as for free. So there is actually a free 7-day trial that takes you through that first week of the course, because I figured if anything else that people got out of this was to hear his voice, then I have literally won. I've done what what I needed to do, was for people to hear this voice. And so, if that's something you're interested in checking out, I'll make sure to link it on the bottom. That, yeah, you can do this 7 days for free, and actually even get a free session, a group session, or maybe even a one-on-one, depending on how busy I am, to actually sit down and say, hey, how is this working for you? Okay, so let's go even further. So once you started really, like, what kind of things changed in your life after you really started hearing him and spending that time, that quiet time with him? What kind of things changed for you?
Yeah. So I really started to personally shift a lot. My understanding grew. My discernment grew. My hypersensitivity grew. And I actually started reading my Bible more. Like the first, like, because that's God's word, right? So it's like, I want to hear more from God. So I started reading his word more, and just really feeling like the power of his presence more often, like everywhere. And so it has been a big part of my alignment journey. And I noticed that I've been reflecting more on myself. Like, self-reflection has been huge. And it's because I've been resting with him a lot more often. So, I don't just like, it's not like a run. I mean, there are my moments where I run to cry for him, obviously, but I'm spending time with him regularly. So it's not like we are working on a relationship. We're growing a relationship. And now it's almost like through this program, I've started to hear his side of the relationship a lot more. Like, I see him more. I have visions more, hear him obviously more than I did, and feel him more. And it's almost like I'm being, the guidance is sharpened from him. And I've started putting up boundaries. I'm such a yes person. I love being a yes person, because I always have this tendency to people please, because I just like to be liked. I mean, a lot of people like to be liked, right? But what he's shown me is that you can't be a people person. You gotta be a God person. God loves people, so you love people, obviously, but you can't people please and do things just to please people. And so that's when boundaries come up. And through this program, I've really learned to start putting boundaries up, and like listening to God's boundaries when he's like, no, like, you should probably stay behind tonight. Like, just, relax at home and work on creating, like, spend time with him. And instead of like constantly trying to fill something, right, to go out, if I'm have a moment of rest or like relaxation, it's like, oh, what can I go do to like fill this time? We're always trying to fill our time up. So yeah, it's taught me to slow down, to rest, to just be, to not really feel the I love your example of this, the FOMO, right? The fear of missing out. It's like, I am living through my purpose with God. Like, I don't have FOMO. I don't fear missing out on going out tonight or going to that big event or whatever, when I'm walking in his fullness love and everything that he has for us. So, I mean, there were so many shifts in me personally, in my relationships and the people I talk to, what I talk to people about, my composure, the way that I listen, my marriage, it's impacted my marriage. So yeah, the list could go on.
That's funny, because that was going to be my next question, was like, how does it affected, other relationships? But also, because then the second part of that program is learning to love yourself the way that God did. So was there any like defining moment through that piece of the program that changed even like how you saw yourself?
Absolutely. Huge. Like when I got to that piece, I was like, because I think that a lot of people struggle with identity issues in some sense or another of loving oneself. What's my like, what am I doing here? All these questions come in your head, like, according to society standards, like, am I even pretty? Am I even smart? Like, we have all these questions, and the enemy fills our head with all these lies. And so we're always almost like this, because there's times, and what he loves to do, what the enemy really loves to do, is he either pulls you way up here mentally, where you think you are like top of the top, like you are like hot stuff, no one's smarter than you, like you just got it all together, or he brings you down here where you are just like scum of the earth. He makes you feel that way, right? That how could you ever be enough and be beautiful, and all these feelings, right? And he's trying to keep us away from where God says we are, and how God loves us, and how God says to love ourselves. And so that shined so much light around that subject for me, to understand the loving yourself concept, because the culture around it is very toxic. Like I said, it's either way up here, or it's way down here. And so, but God's love is the perfect love. Like, obviously he is love. So God's love is real, true love. So when I started to love myself the way God loves me, and see myself the way God sees me, it's opened so many doors and opportunities for me. I feel like I smile more, and I just feel more joy like overflow from me, because I actually recently looked up my name in a biblical term, like, what does my name mean? And so Taylor actually means eternal beauty, and wrapped in salvation. So to me, like, even just hearing that, like what he says about me is like huge, right? And when I felt way down here in my life, physically and emotionally, mentally, right? And when I've also felt like way up here, like thinking I need to fit a societal standard of how I should look, how I should act, attitude I should carry. So it's just really changing my perspective on identity itself, and love, true love.
Right. So now that you're loving yourself more, how do you think that affects the love that you have for other people? Has there been a shift in that area?
Yeah. So it has, it makes me, I don't depend on that to fill me, because I already have it with God. Like, he's already shown me my value. He's already shown me, how he loves me. And so when I'm so full of that, like, I'm telling you, when you are in his presence, and like, you feel it from your head to your toes, you feel wrapped in love, because our souls long for it. We have a void in our hearts and our souls that are meant to only be filled by him. It's meant to only be filled by him. And so when we are feeling empty, it's because there's something missing there. And say you are spending time with God, right? You're in the presence of him and you're like, but I am in the presence with him and I'm just still feeling this way. Then talk to him about it. Talk to him about the identity issue. Tell him, help me with my unbelief right now. Help me love me the way you love me. Help me see myself from your lens, from your perspective, Lord. Like, talk to him about it directly. And I'm telling you, you seek, you find. He will show you whatever area it is in your life, whether it's, loving yourself or a circumstance somewhere else in your life. Like, talk to him about it specifically. And so that's somewhere I struggled in my faith walk for a while, feeling like, out of respect, I shouldn't bring my issues to God, right? Of like, oh, well, like I shouldn't, I mean, like, it's almost like you feel like it needs to just always be this perfect way, this perfect prayer. Like, thank you for all your, but you do so much for me, God. Like, I'm so like, thank you. And it's never the cry out. It's never the, like, Lord, help me with my unbelief. Like, I know I'm struggling. Like, you see me struggling, like, help turn this around with me. And so when you're in that place with him and you feel the fullness of his love from head to toe, you are unstoppable. Like, you are unshakable, truly. And people feel that energy shift in you all around. And something that could phase me in my home, right, in my household, just something small, husband doesn't take out the trash, something like that, right, where if I wasn't full of God, and it's just like these little things just keep adding up, like, you would start to feel frustrated, right? We would start to get irritated. But when you're like in his fullness, like, things don't bother you as much. They don't bother you as much. The little things don't really matter because little things don't hold eternal value, and your eyes are set on kingdom standards in a sense. So it's like, not really worth my energy. Doesn't have any eternal value. Like, really, what matters is how I'm treating others, and no matter how they're treating me back, ultimately. And eventually, either the people around you are going to transform with you because of your shift, your energy shift, or they're going to not be in your circle. That's just how it's going to happen when you're walking with God, because he will prune, refine, and also bring in close the people that are going to grow with you and be transformed with you. So.
Exactly. Yeah. Okay. So we already seeing that you have no longer a people pleaser, have started putting in boundaries,
Yes.
No longer need someone else to fulfill you.
Right.
So then that gets us to the purpose piece. And I remember when he said I was going to do a course on purpose, I'm like, what? So maybe share a little bit about the 4 weeks of purpose and what that changed for you.
So, purpose was like powerful because, like you had said in our other episode about how we all have this same, it's kind of like it's the same Holy Spirit, but different, like different per person, different per individual. There's the same spiritual gifts, there's the same fruits of the Spirit, but it's individualized per person. We're all meant to use our gifts in a different way, right? So purpose in the more general biblical sense, like, that was just beautiful watching that unfold in the program of like actually reading what the Bible says our purpose is, and then interpreting it individualistically of how, like, you're going to shine. I actually pulled my notes out real quick because I wanted to just read some of them. I loved where you had mentioned, my purpose is to embrace steadfast faith. My purpose is to shine. My purpose is to commune with the whole. These are just some examples of how we are called as Christians to be out in the community, be out in the world, and make our impact in the world. Because the truth is, it doesn't matter where you are. You don't have to be on a platform. You don't have to be on creating podcasts and writing books to do this necessarily. And so this could be for anywhere in your life. When you show up to work, like, are you shining at your job, even if it is difficult and you don't like it and your boss is mean? Are you shining? Like, what is your attitude around this? Because really, that's our purpose. That's what we're called to do. And if we're not being that light, and exuding our Christian purpose, what is going to draw people near to us if we are just kind of like going through our day by day, the same as people that don't know the Lord? If we complain all the time, if we don't cue into purpose, and we just don't really like believe in purpose or feel like we have one, where's our hope as a Christian whole? So essentially, that's what the purpose piece, just like the presence of it, was huge, because it does shine a light for everyone, no matter where you're at, no matter what you want to create, or no matter what. Like, we all have a call and a purpose on our lives. So when you go through this piece of the course, it's going to help speak to you directly about how you can shine your purpose through all areas of your life, because there's a purpose over every area, whether work, family, personal, hobbies. Like, there's a purpose individually in all of those. So yeah.
It was very powerful. And it's amazing how you think you don't have purpose, and then there was so much. I mean, I remember going through the different verses in the Bible and thinking, oh my gosh, this has been here this whole time. How did I not see it? And it was because I wasn't drawing near enough to God to hear what he meant, what he was really trying to say about what that means for each of us as we walk with him. So as an overall, I guess this is okay. So I'm going to take this in a kind of interesting way. So one of the things I struggled with as a coach is the money piece, because I'll just give stuff for free. And it took me a while for me to understand, and God had to really work with me on this, is that there is an energy exchange all of the time. So in order for you to receive, you have to give. And the more you give, the more you receive, because everything that we do will ripple out from us, and then it travels across the whole, collects more, and comes back. And I remember thinking, some of the coaching certifications that I did, and they were pricey, but I knew deep inside of me that I was ready for that energy exchange. I was ready because I came from a place of hate and anger, and I wanted to feel love, and I wanted to have joy. And I truly believe that I would have never have reached that point of the fullness of love if I hadn't given something in order to get something. And so that was something that I struggled with when I create programs, because I have given programs away for free.
Yeah.
But now that I understand that I'm doing a disservice when I do that, because then the people that got it, and yes, some people are like intrinsically motivated, like I am, like I could get something for free and get a lot out of it. But when I look back at if I look back and someone would ask me, like, how much would you have paid for this coaching this program that I went through, I would have said millions of dollars, because it took me from a person who hated everything to someone that loves everything and everyone. So so there's this, and I wanted to kind of explain that piece of it, that there is an exchange. So, and especially when you feel like something seems really so here's another thing that I guess that I've learned as I journaled with God. And I really remember distinctly. So it wasn't my first certification. It was going to be the second one that I was about to do. And again, I felt like I needed more, like I was ready for more information and to change more. And I remember sitting there with God, and it wasn't even that I asked him, he asked me, he's like, how much are you willing to pay? How much will you pay for this? And a specific number came into my head, and it's 4 figures. I'll just throw that out there. And the first number started with a 5. I'm giving you like an idea. That popped in my head. And so when they got me on the call to discuss how much it would be, it was the exact number that came to my head, the exact number that I said, that's what I'm willing to pay. And so that was kind of eye-opening for me that, like if you ask God, and at that time, like I didn't have that kind of money, but yet somehow I managed to pay. Again, because I wasn't chasing the money. I was chasing the glory of what God was going to bring me through this. So with that in mind, I guess I'm going to ask this kind of in a weird way because Taylor did pay for this program. But like, if you were to like, if a guy came and said, how much would you been willing to pay for this now that you've seen the whole picture of what it's changed you and feel, how much would it be worth? I mean, how much did it change your life if you were to look at it as a monetary value?
I can't even put a number on it, really. I mean, infinitely more than what I paid. For sure. Yeah. Several thousands of dollars when you think of the eternal value that's attached to something like this. And I do have a few things I want to say about that financial piece that, number one, it does hold you accountable because, again, it's that energy exchange. So paying for something like this puts you in a position where you did forfeit something. You did put something up front. And so you are going to show up. You're going to show up for yourself because you paid for it, right? Number two, the program itself is absolutely worth so much because of what it's going to do for you, for your family, for your relationships, for your future. But on the other hand, to go along with that is Lori spent so much time putting this together. And so when we think of like, going to church, and I know I've heard people complain of tithe, and I've heard people complain of giving, like, oh, of course you come sit down at church and like, you got to give money, right? But when you hear these messages and the time that pastors, that is their full-time job, like to be up there to preach the gospel. And so I want to pay them. Like, I want to pay them because it's not my money. It's God's money, right? 10% is his. Like, all of it's his. He only asked for 10% to go back to the church. So when you think of it in that perspective, like, it's going to come back to it. I'm telling you, it's going to come back to you. I didn't even tell you this, Lori, that my husband and I got a random check in the mail after I finished the program, just so you know, like totally random, unexpected. It was it had an explanation, but like not really an explanation, right? One of those things. And it was just like, I can't believe this. But in some way or another, I'm not saying you're going to get a random check in the mail right after you finish the program, but I'm just saying in one way or another, it's going to come back to you multiplied for the time and the money that you invested. And I've always like valued investments because they multiply, and especially in God's kingdom. Like when you are investing in God's kingdom, this is a God thing, you guys, that we're talking about. Like, there are no limits. You might think, and I will tell you personally, it was hard for me at first, not really knowing much other than what she had told me, because I'd never done any of her programs before. I'd never even read her books, as I mentioned. So it was difficult for me at first to wrap my head around just like coming up with the money for it, right? But I'm like, God just like gave me that peace. He's like, it's going to be okay. You'll be okay. Like, because I was building a home. I was traveling a lot. I had a lot of personal trips I had to pay money for that were already pre-planned, right? So it was a time in my life that was just kind of probably not a good time, ideally, but God's like, it's perfect time because you're going to be fine. I got you. So he will do that for you. If you just put your trust and your faith in him, he will do that for you, and you will be fine because you go in full-heartedly, like you are ready to make something out of this, and like you are ready for God to come in and, be on the throne of your heart and learn to journal with him. I'm telling you, it's going to change your life completely. So that's what I have to say about that.
And it really is. And it's crazy because when I think about the energy exchange, because it was all of me, like all of me is in this program, and it's all of God through me in this program, because I can't even take credit saying, hey, look what I did. No, he did it through me. It's totally his word. I changed by doing it. And I've already seen the fruits of it. Not only in Taylor is fruit of it, but just even in my life, things have completely changed and shift because I was obedient to create it. And so now I'm being obedient to get it out there, because people need this. People are crying out to know what their purpose is and to get that connection with God. And it's those people that are feeling that FOMO, that fear of missing out, is because you're not where you're supposed to be. That's it. That's what that means. And so if you're feeling like that, then this program is probably for you. I mean, it was so impactful, and it's so amazing. And it's crazy when you allow God to fully lead where you're going, because then amazing things happen. Yeah, just by listening. So I listened to create it. Taylor listened and did it with me. And it's been amazing. And I don't want to forget too that so part of this program is not even just the lessons, because you do get a daily lesson and a daily journaling prompt, but we also have group sessions. And so even when you come to a session and you might feel like, I don't really have anything to share today, you really actually do. You just might not have known it. So maybe share a little bit about like what the sessions, as we sat down and actually got to work through some of it, like what was the impact of that?
Yeah, because there were some times where, the impact was always huge, because we would just God would just make his presence known every time. Because there were times when, maybe we were having a rough morning, rough start. Or like for me, sometimes there were times when I didn't have my like aha moment in my journaling, right? To where I could like go share it with Lori. And so I would end up having it though through our conversation. It's almost like he would speak through the conversation to give me the moment on the piece that I was like learning about and talking with him about. So, because there were some times that I couldn't get my space completely like there with, and so I'd ask the prompt, and there was the one time in specific where there was the journaling prompt, and I didn't like hear from God in the moment. I'm just like, I was trying to force the answer. And so then we get in our conversation and we start talking about the prompt and the scenario, and come to find out I was like almost misinterpreting what he was telling me and like trying to make it harder than what it was. So when she brought it up just simplistically, and I'm like, that's the answer. Like clarity just came over me. And so like I had like tears in my eyes. I'm just like, oh my gosh, like that's it. That's what he was trying to tell me. And I'm over here like trying to like figure it out, like trying to be investigator. And I'm like, yeah, I was like trying too hard. So
Yeah.
Anyway, so there were times in the group session that were just, the session was always just wonderful. We always had something that came about. There was just an aha moment, epiphany, revelation. God's presence was known every time, even when we had a rough start, or even when we like weren't feeling the flow right at first, it got there. So
yeah. And the reason I kind of brought that up too is because God says when two or more come together. So that group piece is, I feel like, so vital to this program. Yes, I can offer it as just the course itself, but I really feel like it's the two or more coming together. So you may get an aha moment when you're journaling alone, but then you come to the group and then, hearing other people, it's just that collection of God's love, because with each person that shows up, like that multiplies him in that presence. And so it's just like this fire, God fire, and just, lifting you up. So,
yeah. Well, and it is nice to share, like it's powerful to share that with fellow, with the community. Really, the community piece is huge in that, because ultimately, like that's what's so cool about the group piece is it is that sense of community. Like we're all walking through this program together, and we have common ground, right? And to where we can talk about and commune with God all together. And there's so much more impact in that than just you alone, going through the program, but not really getting to talk through it with other people. When you get off your group session, you are like feeling fired up and like ready to go tell other people. You really do, to invite them to be a part of this. So we are like creatures of influence, really. We do. you get a new pair of shoes and someone called me, where'd you get, oh my gosh, I have to tell you, I got them here. Right. So it really is. That's what's so beautiful about this, and the community, the sense of community. We all really do crave that. So the group sessions are important.
Yeah. And I think the piece I like the most is because I always was that person that kind of held myself back away from people, um, because of my background being abused and traumatized. And so sometimes we don't think that we need it, but we so do. We so need a sisterhood or a brotherhood, or, whatever, which one you are in. And that's kind of why the podcast started too, because I wanted people to be able to share their stories, their aha moments, because it's those aha moments that we have that can give someone else an aha moment, and it's that aha ripple. And that's kind of what we want to do as, God's kids, is to keep that God moment just rippling out across the whole. And that's what this program and the group sessions and it's all about, is to, because if I look out in the world now, and it's so heavy, and there's so much going on that is not godly, it's not love, it's hate and anger. And so this program is just God's love. It's his peace. It's his knowledge and his wisdom that, we all need to have. And that's why Taylor and I had discussed, like, we need to talk about this on the podcast because it is so important. And so with this, not only, talking about it, but I also want to encourage people, because we're doing a special. We're going to do a back to school special where, because it is 2 or more. So I'm like, what's better than if there's already 2 of you? So 2 of you can split the price, and do it together. So, yeah. So if you're hearing this and going, I want to do this, and I want to bring my sister or my best friend or my mom or my niece, or, whoever it is you want to bring, but, you already do have someone in your mind that you already trust with, and you want to grow more. This is the time. This is the time to get rid of that FOMO and just embrace that love that is yours, and really fully understand who you are for him and who you are for this world, because you're so important, and it matters what you're doing. So, yeah. Any last thoughts before we end?
I will just encourage you. You can start now with working to hear God's voice over the certainty that you need to step forward.
Excuse me.
You're okay. To step forward in a program like this, because I'm telling you, obviously, number one, school's never out for the pro, and this is God's world, right? We're building the kingdom of heaven in this. We're investing in the kingdom of heaven. And so even if you feel like you are like sharp and you're on top of your game, there is something that you are going to get from this, because God is speaking to you. He's speaking to you. And there's something that the rest of the community could hear from you here in becoming the one God called, right? Just, we talk about ideas and aha God moments. And so I would definitely pray over this. If you're feeling like a nudge in your heart right now, like, I would definitely love to be a part of something like this. Maybe you're thinking like, oh, do I have the time? Do I have the money? Do I have the resources to do something like this, to invest in something like this? Pray on it right now, or when you have the chance to, and get the clarity that you need from God, right? Not outside sources, not other voices telling you, get it from God. And I'm telling you, it'll change your life. So that's my final thought on it.
Yeah, it changes both. That's just crazy. It changed us both, interestingly enough, in our own unique ways. So it will change you. I guarantee it, actually, because God wrote it. You're going to hear him. You're going to feel him. You are going to embrace all of the love that is yours, and become this even bigger, brighter, shinier star that is you. So thank you so much, Taylor, for coming and sharing.
No problem.
Until next time. Okay. Bye.